Imagine graduating with high hopes only to enter a job market where your contract offers no security, you pay barely covers rent, and discrimination quietly limits your growth. Sounds unfair, right? But for many young Malaysians, that's the reality. I am Denail Perry, and today I'll be talking about what I found after analyzing 10 articles on Malaysia's current labor market. And honestly, the results are eye opening. First and foremost, let's talk about what is the issue. Nepotism and favoritism are unethical practices in human resource management and where certain individuals, such as family members, close friends, or attractive individuals, are given unfair advantages in hiring, promotion, or treatment at the workplace. This issue directly affects workplace fairness, employee morale, and organizational productivity. Why does it matter? Why is it important? It is because it causes discrimination and inequality, which can lead to employee dissatisfaction and high turnover. It also demotivate hardworking employees who are not given fair chances for growth. And in the long run, it damages organizational reputation and slows down national economic growth due to inefficient hiring decisions. In countries like Malaysia, favoritism is often excused as normal or cultural, which makes the issue even more deeply rooted and dangerous. It causes discrimination and inequality, which can lead to employee dissatisfaction and high turnover. How does it happen? It usually happens during recruitment, where relatives or friends are hired over more qualified applicants. And it also usually happens during promotions and appraisals, where favorite staff receive better treatment regardless of their actual performance. It can be subtle, or soft nepotism, or obvious hard nepotism, but both can be harmful. Sometimes it is also normalized by culture, especially in family run or small businesses, making it harder to challenge. Who is it affecting actually? First, it affects mostly employees who work hard but are ignored or overlooked. Second, HR departments that face ethical challenges and lose credibility. Third, organizations that suffer from lower productivity and internal conflict. And lastly, society in general, where when inequality becomes part of working system. Next, now we want to see the implication of nepotism, starting with employers' point of view. First, it will decline in performance and productivity. When employees notice that promotions or rewards are based on personal connections instead of skills or effort, they lose motivation to perform. This affects the whole team spirit, and over time, when the favored employees may underperform because they aren't held accountable, productivity across departments starts to drop. Secondly, loss of talented employees. Skilled workers who feel ignored or underappreciated may leave the company for better opportunities. When experienced staff leave, it takes time and money to replace them. Worst case scenario could happen is when new hires may not be as good, causing delays and disruption in workflow. Last but not least is damaging the company's reputation itself. Companies known for favoritism may be seen as unprofessional or unethical. This damages their reputation in the industry. Clients, investors, or job seekers might not want to associate with a biased organizations, and it becomes harder to attract top talent or business partnerships. In the employee's point of view, it can damage their morale and trust. When promotions or opportunities are biased on personal relationships instead of performance, it sends a very clear message to employees that merit doesn't matter. As a result, many hardworking staff feel invisible, and giving your best every day when someone else who is less experienced get the recognition simply because they have the right is unimaginable. This creates toxic environment, motivation drops, trust in leadership disappear, and teamwork suffers because people no longer believe in fairness. Secondly, stress and emotional burnout to employees. Now let's talk about how this affects mental health. Many employees in this situation constantly feel anxious and demoralized. They start questioning their values, their efforts, and their future. When people are repeatedly overlooked, and despite their achievements, it takes a toll. Someone end up emotionally withdrawing or even facing burnout. And in many cases, this stress isn't just temporary and it can follow them in the long run. Lastly, career stagnation and turnover for employees. Favoritism blocks career growth. High performing employees, those who can lead and innovate, often hit a ceiling they can't break through simply because they're not part of the group. What happens next? They leave. We've seen talented individuals, especially in government linked and family run organizations, walk away because they feel stuck. And every time a good employee works out, the organization loses values. They are a few recommendations and suggestions by the writers of 10 articles in handling nepotism in workplace. Firstly, we can introduce an anti-nepotism policy by creating a formal anti-nepotism policy in the employee handbook. Every company needs a clear written policy that defines what nepotism is, especially when it comes to hiring a family or close friends. This sets a tone that favoritism won't be tolerated and helps everyone to understand rules. Secondly, we can make hiring and promotion based on qualifications and not personal ties. To avoid favoritism, companies should use fair and structured hiring processes like scoring systems and diverse interview panels. And this way, every candidate gets a fair shot based on skills and performance, not on who they know. Thirdly, um, we can train leaders on ethics and bias about unconscious bias and ethical leadership. Sometimes favoritism isn't obvious, it can happen unconsciously. That's why it's important to train team leaders to recognize bias and make fair decisions. Ethical leadership starts from top and influence the whole company culture. Last but not least, it is suggested to provide safe ways to report favoritism, which can offers anonymous reporting channels for staff. Employees should feel safe to speak up if they notice unfair practices. Companies can set up anonymous hotlines or feedback platforms. And most importantly, protect those who report from any backlash or retaliations. After going through all 10 articles, there are a few things that are made clear. First, Malaysia's labor market is facing serious but fixable issues that affects both employees and employers. Malaysia is going through a major shift in how we work, especially with the rise of gig jobs, contract work, and inequality in the workplace. The most common problem we see across all 10 articles are job insecurity, discrimination, burnout, and exploitation, especially among youth and vulnerable workers. These aren't one off cases, they're happening at a structural level, meaning the way the whole system is set up contributes to them. Secondly, changes must happen at all levels: policy, culture, and structure. It is not enough to just increase salaries. We need better employment laws, clear contracts, safer working conditions, and workplace culture that are inclusive and respectful. Companies need to stop relying on gig workers and start building real career paths for people. These shifts won't happen overnight, but they are possible with strong leadership and clear direction. Last but not least, these issues affect us all directly as students, workers, and future leaders. This isn't just a class topic, it's our future. The unfair labor practices we read about today might be the working conditions we face tomorrow. That's why we need to care and push for a system that values people, not just profits. If you don't speak up or demand better, nothing will change. That is all for me on nepotism in workplace. Thank you.